One thing I've learned is this: when machines can outsmart all of us, the only ability that will matter is your own judgment. So in this video, we'll cover 5 distortions that hijack your judgment every day, and one simple tool in each case to improve how to think more clearly. Learn to see all 5, and you'll feel like a genius catching what everyone else is missing. Let's start our story with one of the most expensive phone calls ever. In January of 2024, an employee working in the finance department at the Hong Kong company called Arup got a message from his CFO about transferring $25 million. And he thought it smelled fishy. So the employee asked the CEO to get on a video call to confirm it. All right, no problem. The CFO got on a video conference along with a few team members, and they walked the finance employee through a step-by-step process to transfer the money. Now, the employee was super proud of himself because he insisted on in-person instructions from his CFO on a video conference. So he transferred the money, and days later, he and his company found out that every person on that call was a deepfake. A deepfake is a fake video or voice made by AI to look and sound exactly like the real person. The faces, the voices, all of it was generated by AI from clips of the CFO scraped from the internet. And of course, the money was gone forever. This is a true story. This is the world we live in right now. You know, we've all heard that saying, finding the needle in a haystack. But now you have to find the real needle from the haystack of fake needles that look exactly like the real one. And this is exactly where critical thinking comes in handy. And by the way, if you want one idea every week that helps you think more critically, please subscribe to my newsletter. Every Tuesday, one insight, one tool, one practice. Link is below. It's totally free. What makes it hard to find that real needle are 5 distortions. 3 of those distortions come from the outside. I call them the asks. We spell it A-S-C, and it sounds like ask because that's the whole point. Let's start with the first test, authority, because that's the force that can fool the smartest people in the room. A question that nobody asks. Some of the smartest investors threw hundreds of millions of dollars at a company called Theranos, but forgot to ask one very important question. Theranos was hailed as one of the pioneering companies that could run hundreds of blood tests on a single drop of blood. All the tests that would typically require someone poking your arm with a needle and taking several tubes of blood. It was a brilliant idea. The company raised $700 million from marquee investors. The company was valued at $9 billion at its peak. The founder and CEO of the company was Elizabeth Holmes, and she was such a dynamic and charismatic woman. She dropped out of Stanford at the age of 19, and she would work 20-hour days, and she wore a black turtleneck, just like Steve Jobs, and she had a deep baritone voice. She talked like this all the time, and people noticed that she barely blinked when she was giving answers. I can't do that. She had a sense of a noble purpose, and for 12 years, she kept the technology secret. She was running a medical devices company that felt like a tech company from Silicon Valley, except that none of it was true. The core technology had never worked as promised. When a Wall Street Journal article cracked the facade open, it turned out the miracle machine was just a box that couldn't do anything she had promised. And eventually the company collapsed, and Elizabeth Holmes was sentenced to 11 years in prison. That's where she is right now. So how does that happen? How do the sharpest people in finance skip the basics? Let's look at 3 signs where critical thinking would have saved the investors. First, the halo effect. Theranos had one of the most impressive boards on the planet. 2 former secretaries of state, a retired 4-star general, and former CEOs from major companies. Brilliant people, powerful people, influential people. But did they know anything about blood chemistry or medical devices? Absolutely not, but nobody asked. Second, the FOMO. Nobody wanted to miss the next NVIDIA or Apple or Google. And Elizabeth Holmes made the investors feel like the train was leaving the station all the time. Nobody asked. And third, the veil of secrecy. A reporter asked Holmes 6 times how the company's technology actually worked, and he never got a straight answer. She said, chemistry is performed so that a chemical reaction occurs and generates a signal, which is translated into a result. That meant almost nothing. Could a real medical breakthrough meant to diagnose your health ever avoid any scrutiny at all? Absolutely not. But nobody asked. And that story keeps repeating itself. Enron, FTX, WeWork, the 2008 financial crisis. In every single one of those cases, people replaced their own judgment and let the charisma, the credentials, and the confidence of others distort their reality. And the key takeaway action item here is pretty simple. The first skill about critical thinking is just asking a simple, disarming question that nobody else has bothered to ask. What needs to be true for this to be real? That's the question. This is where AI can help too, by the way, but only if you use it correctly. So if someone makes an impressive claim, go back to AI and ask, show me the evidence that supports the claim. Show me all the evidence that challenges it. What needs to be true for this to be real? Theranos was a $9 billion failure of critical thinking, an expensive lesson in bad judgment. But the same magic tricks are played by lawyers and marketers every single day all around us. That's where we go next, to the land of true lies. You know, big companies don't lie to you anymore. They don't have to. They have something better. The smartest companies on earth have mastered one dark art: how to create true lies. Start with the phone that's in your hand. Now, I really like Apple products, so I'm not dissing on them. But if you watch how Apple talks about their products when they launch them, it's a masterclass of marketing gymnastics. Today, we're raising the bar with an all-new iPhone that is unlike anything we have created. You know, when you listen to that line carefully, you realize that they didn't say anything. All they said was, we've created something new that we hadn't created before. Well, that's what new means. Those are just word noodles. Perfectly edible, but if you're a critical thinker, you won't be able to digest them. Here are some verbal tricks. One trick is up to. The company will say the battery can last up to 36 hours. That